get through to our first guest for today. A beauty, a beauty. I'm not going to say a beauty queen, a beauty by the name of Nhlalala Mashele. Good afternoon, my lovey. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Lukho, and good afternoon to the listeners.
Is it possible for somebody to be beautiful and have a beautiful voice at the same time?
It's very possible.
This is like, I'm like, hey, Bo. I don't know, because I actually had a chat with you earlier,
hmm
but I didn't realize, or maybe when we went on air,
I think it's
it became
because I
nicer.
really gave off kind of a reserved element.
And then you came on and you're like, I'm here.
Yeah.
Oh man, welcome, welcome. I must say, really, really a great honor to have you with us today. Now, Nhlalala is actually a top 20 finalist.
hmm
And I'm going to say this for Miss Gauteng exclusive.
That's
So I
right.
asked her off air and I'm like, what's the difference? I don't know. There's Miss Gauteng, right? And she says, this is the OG. In other words, this is the original of the pageant, which is Miss Gauteng.
hmm
Congratulations.
Thank
Look,
you.
Gauteng is not a huge province,
hmm
but it's got a huge population. So I can
That's true.
imagine that there were hundreds of entrants within the pageant,
Yeah.
and you made it to the top 20.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. So
Definitely.
congratulations. Now, let's start here. There's a lot I have for you, by the way, but let's just start here. Why beauty pageantry? Why
Okay.
would you decide on that?
All right. So I think when you say beauty pageantry, for many people, we just see it as getting on a stage and strutting your strut to look like this glamorous model. But I think when you look deeper into it, you realize that beauty pageants are not just about the glitz, it goes into the substance behind the model who's
Yeah,
standing on that stage. So
sure.
for me, it was just about finding a platform to be able to empower my youth.
Wow. All right. Now let's get into the pageant that's you. Let's talk about you specifically.
Okay.
Give us a bit of a story about you. Who are you? Because the reason I asked that question, I wanted to understand, Uguti, why did you then choose to go through that journey, which is what you've just explained. But
hmm
who are you? Where are you from exactly? Let's get the story of your life. Where did this pageantry thing all begin
All
for
right.
Nhlalala?
Okay, so as you introduced me, my name is Nhlalala Mashele.
Oh, you said it
I
nicer than me. Nhlalala.
Yes, I'm 19 years old. I hail all the way from the heart of Centurion. I
Oh.
am a first year university student, and
Oh.
what more can I say? I think I'm a outdoor enthusiast.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy all things public speaking. I enjoy all
Mm.
things that have to do with feeding positively into the person that I am. And yeah, I am a Miss Gauteng exclusive top 20 finalist for the year 2025.
Mm.
So you asked me, where did it all begin?
Yes.
I like to think that I actually started late because,
Really?
yes, I started in grade 10, right? I
Wow.
think I identified pageantry or I came to know what it is in 2021.
Mm.
And for me, I think I also viewed it from a narrow perspective where I thought it's just a stage and looking beautiful.
Yeah.
But the moment I actually took a step to check what is it about, I realized that no, man, this is about empowerment. It's about
Mm.
grooming young girls to become the future,
Mm.
better women and better versions of themselves. So it started there. I remember I told my mom and I was like, hey, I saw Miss Teenager South Africa on Instagram. And she's like, okay. And I'm like, I think I want to do it.
So you
And
entered Miss Teenager.
let me tell you the
Okay.
story
Okay.
actually.
I'm
So,
here for it.
I saw Miss Teenager as the first pageant. And then it happened that in 2022, I entered Miss Teen Johannesburg
Okay.
2023. And in Miss Teen Johannesburg 2023, I placed as the second princess and the face of Miss Teen Johannesburg. So it doesn't
Wow.
end there. Being the face of Miss Teen Johannesburg meant that I now get to go represent at Miss Teenager South Africa. So isn't that such a coincidence?
Wow. Exactly.
Yeah, so 4 months later, so the Miss Teen Johannesburg finale was in June, and then 4 months later, December, that's when the Miss Teenager South Africa finale took place. And I was privileged to represent my province, and I managed to place top five. But
Wow.
yeah, I always say that, even though I didn't get the crown, Miss Teenager South Africa gave me something that no one can ever take away from me, which is the
Mm.
experience and the exposure.
I'll tell you one thing, Kla. For me, it takes a certain level of resilience to actually continue with the pageantry space, because you win some, you lose some. And I've heard people who say, I've gone through this many pageants, I lost. And just when you think, oh, this pageantry thing is not for me, you win a big competition. So for one to actually say, I'll go to the next. I'll go. Because for me, I don't lie to you, I did it when I was much younger.
Okay.
But I think I bowed out on there was something called Miss Fresh It.
Okay.
When you start high school, that was the last one I did. I won it and I bailed out, because for me it was do I ever have to do it again?
Yeah.
And if I ever have to do it, what if I lose? Will my confidence take it? No, I can't. Exactly. So for me, for somebody to actually say, I'll go back and again and again, that takes a certain level of resilience. But this is what I also want to ask you, Nta. I wondered to myself, in this day and age, well, back in our day, I'm not that old, but back in our day, it was all about beauty
Yeah.
only. And I find that nowadays it's beauty, it's brains, it's selflessness, it's community work. These are the things that you guys get to do.
Exactly.
You're only 19, my baby.
Yes.
How did you decide, I'm getting into this space and I'm going to invest in it? Because this then means, on top of your school books, there's a lot of other societal and community things that you have to look into. Were you ever ready for that?
You know, I always think that growth is something that's new. So you're never really ready for change, but it's always about how you embrace it.
Sure.
So yeah, I wasn't ready for it, but I'm proud to say that I'm embracing the change quite well.
But you were prepared for it.
I
You
was
knew
prepared,
it came with it.
definitely, definitely.
Sure. Because I always look at pageants and I think, who girl the journey you're about to go into?
It's something.
Let's talk about this particular journey then. Then it came up. How did it all come about? And what have you had to do in terms of what we just spoke about? Like community work and stuff that you've had to do for this particular pageant. Have you started even?
Okay. So I took the decision to enter Miss Gauteng exclusive in 2024 in my matric year.
Okay.
So in my matric year, I wasn't participating in any pageants. And then I actually sat down and I
Was that mommy's rule or was it yours?
well, it was mommy's rule, but it was for my own good. I think looking
Yeah.
back at it now, it makes so much sense. So I sat down and I said, okay, this is the pageant. And knowing that it's a big pageant, I understood that there's a lot of responsibility that's going to come with this pageant. You guys start off as semi-finalists.
Yep.
Next thing you're cut down to a top 20 and it's like, whoa, okay, when did we get there?
Yeah.
So yeah, I submitted my entry video in December and that's when I knew that the work starts now,
Yeah.
I always say that as a ambassador for a certain pageant or a brand, you don't wait for a sash to start working. You need to be proactively engaging in your community. You need to have a cause, because then it changes the narrative when you're only active when you have a sash. You know what I'm saying?
True.
So we got the messages in February that we are officially semi-finalists, and I think we were
Just semi-finalists, not top 20 yet.
not top 20.
Whew.
So I think we were 50 something around that time. And I don't want to lie, I was actually a little scared because the ladies that I'm currently competing with, or the ladies that I was with in semi-finalist round, it's ladies who are much older than me, who have degrees, who are working and so on. But then I quickly pulled myself back and I said, you need to know your why.
Yeah.
You need to know, why did you enter this pageant? It's not about comparing yourself. So when I applied that mindset, I don't want to lie, it was such a game changer. I remember we started with voting in February and I placed first for the month of February for top voting. And for me, it was such a confidence booster because it was like, I am actually capable.
Yeah.
I can. So
those votings are quite tedious.
Hey.
The drives you have to do for them. So if you could pull that, you can do anything.
I really can. And we went through voting, and then after March, they announced the top 20.
Wow.
So yeah, this was the big moment.
I can only imagine.
I was so overwhelmed, it was such a beautiful moment for me to see
Mm.
myself, from being a Miss Teen to now a Miss Gauteng,
Wow.
evolving into this better version of myself.
Yeah.
So we became a top 20 in April,
Hmm.
and then we had our sashing ceremony on the 17th of May.
Quite
And
recent.
yes, what a blast. I don't want to lie
Mm.
to you. It was an amazing event. I got to meet beautiful ladies, from all kinds of backgrounds, discovering the Gauteng exclusive team, who I'll be working with, and so on.
Mm.
So that's the journey thus far. And I have
Mm.
been engaging in community work. I started when I was just a semi finalist in
Wow.
March. My first one was on Human Rights Day. I gave a talk about human rights at a primary school in Tembisa, Marulana Primary School. So, yeah, that's
You should have had a chat with the pastor that just exited here because
okay.
he's actually a human rights lawyer.
Really?
Now that we're talking about it, but what's your general area of interest? Because I do understand
Hmm.
that each one of you has to have a certain interest which you
And
feed into.
advocacy.
Exactly.
Hmm.
What's your area of interest?
Okay, so I am a skills development advocate, right,
Mm.
for young children. So I don't just look at it at a point of we need to develop our skills as the youth,
Hmm.
but also accommodating children with development disorders,
Oh.
when we talk about your ADHD, all
Mm.
that kind of disorders, how do we accommodate such learners as well?
Wow.
Yeah.
You're too young for this. But you're doing such a great work, I must say. And when are we crowning? Because hey, we're speaking it into being. When are we crowning you? When is the actual event?
All right, so the finale is on the 4th of October.
Sure.
Yeah, we're
So
not
you
too
have
far.
these months to continue with your community work and your
Hmm.
advocacy.
And then, yes, we have to do that. And we're also allocated specific tasks. So, the amazing thing with the Miss Gauteng exclusive pageant, when you ask me what's the difference, I'll tell you now is that Miss Gauteng exclusive, it's not just a pageant,
Hmm.
but it's a transformational organization. So, we have
Mm.
workshops where we are also developed holistically, where
Wow.
we participate in community work as top 20 for the class of 2025. So throughout
Wow.
this period before the finale, we are also developed internally more than us also pouring into the community.
What has been your biggest motivation throughout this journey? What's kept you going? Who has kept you going?
Okay, motivation. May I just say that I'm not always motivated. I'm actually run by discipline.
Wow.
Um, my dreams, first of all, waking up knowing that I have a goal that I've set for myself,
Mm.
my faith, and just always remembering that the future version of myself is counting on me today is what motivates
Yo,
me.
say that again.
The future version of myself is counting on the me that's living today.
I got goosebumps from that. Because I'm like, I never thought about that. That's a challenge for myself, actually. Sure. I love to hear that. You decided to enter Miss Gauteng exclusive this year.
Hmm.
I know there's been Abo Miss South Africa and
Yeah.
whatnot and teen. Is that something that you've had an interest in, or do you have an interest, or are you one of those? Let's get this out of the way, then we focus on the next thing. What's your goal? What's your dream?
Um, so I haven't really looked beyond Miss Gauteng exclusive.
Okay.
Miss South Africa, definitely an organization that I've always admired from a
Mm-hmm.
young age. It is a transformational platform. Um, as to what I like to enter, I think I still have to do a little bit of introspection on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Interesting, I must say. You're a young woman.
Hmm.
Just became an adult last year.
Hmm.
What would you say to a young girl with imposter syndrome? Because I think oftentimes we don't want to believe
Hmm.
that we're great. Not that we don't want to believe, but it's hard to believe
Hmm.
that it's me. It's hard to believe that I can achieve certain feats in my life.
Hmm.
So what can you say to that young girl who's sitting there not really sure
Hmm.
if anything is for them, actually, not just pageantry, but anything that they want to pursue? Because I mean, you got up and did it,
Yeah.
and it's working.
Hmm.
What would you say to that girl that's really not sure of herself?
Okay. So I'll start off by saying that greatness is found in authenticity. So, first of all, being yourself. I always say that in a world where there's so many role models, people who you look at and you aspire to be like, it's very easy to get lost into trying to duplicate or copy a
Yeah.
version of someone else. So I think tapping into your dreams, looking at who am I? What do I like? How can I contribute to my society or this world with my talents?
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm putting emphasis on my is because we all possess different talents.
Yep.
We all possess different gifts and skills. We can't all contribute the same thing. So the first things first is definitely knowing who you are and what are you good at that you can pour into this world or into the community, and it'll make a huge difference.
Wow. La la la. Thank you so much, Malawi. We are running out of time. Thank you for gracing our studios this afternoon, and all the best. All
Thank you
the
so
best.
much.
Back in the day, they said, the sky is the limit. Not even the sky is the limit for you. Go way beyond that,
Yeah.
because this crown can be yours. It will be yours.
Thank you so
Thank you
much,
so much, and God
Lukho.
bless.
Lamp of gold, seated